there has been quite a bit of discussion recently with regards to some historical landmarks in Choiseul and government acquiring property. And I thought we should maybe just have a little background information as to why we are where we are today. If you are from Choiseul, or if you are somebody who frequents Choiseul, you would know what we intimately call the sugar mills or the windmills in Choiseul. And these are what we consider to be historical landmarks in the community of Choiseul, where quite a few people would use them as backdrops for photo opportunities. Anything to depict Choiseul, you would at some point recognize these sugar mills in the video or the photo. And as a young boy growing up in the community of Choiseul, I was always under the impression that these iconic landmarks actually belonged to government. And it was only sometime, I think it was about 2 years ago, when in driving by, I recognized there was some construction, which appeared to be a house construction, right mere feet away from one of the sugar mills in Monsignor. And then in making some inquiries, I was told that the property had been sold to an individual to construct his home. In doing some additional background check, and I realized that none of the sugar mills actually belonged to the Crown, and they were all in private ownership. I immediately took whatever action that had to be taken to ensure that as a government, as a state, we actually had some sort of ownership of these landmarks, because there are certain things we believe that are too emotionally attached to your country or to your constituency that you should let fall into private hands. As I indicated earlier, there are actually 3 of these in a row, and we were able to acquire 2 of them. The reason we did not acquire the one in the middle was because it was too far gone in terms of demolished. We only had the base of it, and the owner of that property had actually started a land development in the area. So there were already roads running, right within the vicinity of that middle sugar mill. So our government, we put out the notice that we were acquiring the various properties. Why I believe as a community it was even more important for us to actually have ownership of these sugar mills was just a little over 20 years ago. I remember there was a school project that was sponsored at the time by, I think it was the RBTT Bank, where the children of the Choiseul Junior Secondary School at the time formed what is known as a human chain, where they were down into the river. They formed a chain going all the way up to the sugar mill in Monsignor. And these kids passed stones from the river from one hand to the next until they were able to lay them at the foundation of that sugar mill for restoration. It was a project that they were all very proud of, from where this windmill was, sugar mill was, to having completed it. And you realized even more the emotional attachment that it created when you had so many children in the school and even the community were involved, in that project. And I felt that this is something that we should cherish, we should hold close to our heart, and we could make it into a wonderful park where there's a story to tell. At a point in time where I mentioned this in one of my budget addresses, I saw a comment, or someone forwarded a comment from Facebook indicating that the National Trust at some point had actually had eyes on this sugar mill to recreate the actual wind mill for visitors to come and actually experience what it was like in the days when the mills were in operation. Unfortunately, when they had approached the owner of the property, the owner said they're not interested in leasing and they were only going to sell. I did comment that I felt that maybe the National Trust should have even brought this to the attention of the government, and I am not sure whether they did, so that the government could have intervened and actually have purchased it. So, long story short, we have acquired the property. The gentleman who was constructing his home, we have had discussions with him. We have agreed on the way forward as it relates to compensation, because right within the vicinity of the sugar mill, the Crown actually has additional property, and therefore we will be having some arrangement with the gentleman. The intention as a parliamentary rep, obviously with consultation and with discussion with the residents, is that we would create, in this particular one in Monsignor, we would use the structure that the gentleman had already built, which was, he had already built a foundation, he had already put up some walls. We would use the foundation as a platform to where our vendors could actually use it to sell their craft, advertise their craft. When that is not happening, we could also use it as an area where we can do our traditional festivals, whether it be La Marguerite, La Rose. You could have a theater happening there, and we could create a wonderful park where people can have that experience of not just the sugar mill and its story, but there's also the theater part of it on a platform, and it would be a park that will be controlled by the residents, by the community, obviously to create some sort of economic activity. The other sugar mill, which is in the Fiat area, close to Sabushak, I'm sure many people would know Sabushak, is also another landmark that several people use as a backdrop to take wedding photos. I've seen some stunning wedding photos in that area, and considering what it has already been traditionally being used for, we would look at also making another park, but with a different sort of activity happening there, where we could have wedding ceremonies, birthday anniversaries, celebrations in different forms. We would have it as also another park, but more with a play theme attached to it. So there would be activities for children there, obviously washroom facilities, and that is just a concept that I'm having, but initially, but obviously with the input from the residents of the community, it can evolve into something more fitting to what they believe would be best suited. There's also been conversation, as I have said somewhere before, in trying to emulate the idea that the National Trust had, and that is to recreate the actual windmills and tell a story. We would get pictures to show what used to happen in the area, and so all of what you've been hearing is really focusing on making these landmarks ours. So when the visitor comes to Choiseul, we'll be able to take them to one of these landmarks, among several other features that we are hoping to develop in the community to benefit the community, create the economic activity that while Choiseul is known for the craft, but have we really created that kind of talk, that kind of excitement? There was a time when the Choiseul Handicraft Center was a place that was loaded with vehicles, specifically from various tours that were organized by the various tour companies. But that has died. We want to bring that back. In fact, we have already, through the Ministry of Tourism, have already approached quite a few of these craft individuals to make their place more readily accommodating for such visitors, by where they don't have washrooms, to put in washrooms for them, create the scene so that it's safe for the visitor. So this is complementing everything else that we believe that will push Choiseul to another level as it relates to a visitor experience. So there's a lot more that you will hear, but I just thought that it would be important for us to lay to rest any speculation as it regards to the government acquiring the properties. But it is all for the good of the community. As I said, the owner, we have spoken to him. I believe we have a mutual understanding and agreement. Everybody at the end of the day will be happy because, the community will benefit.